Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the Willow Cove Crafts podcast, a podcast about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily, and you can find me on both Ravelry and Instagram as Willow Cove Crafts, all one word. Today is Saturday, January 1st, 2022, and Happy New Year to everyone. It's always exciting, at least for me, having a fresh new year ahead of us. Yes, I hope you all had a fantastic and safe New Year's Eve and that you are also looking forward to the year to come. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe if you are interested in being notified when I post content in the future. And also feel free to leave a comment. I love interacting with you all here on YouTube. It has been a little over 3 weeks since I last recorded. I went a little long between episodes this time because we had a very busy December, as I'm sure a lot of you had, what with Christmas festivities and events. We were not home most of the weekends in December, so that made it a little tricky to record an episode. But yeah, I will try and put some footage in at the end of the episode if you are interested. Dan and I had quite a few holiday parties, and one of my favorite things that is kind of a Christmas tradition in my family is we went to my grandfather and his siblings own a cabin up north, maybe about like the middle of the state. Wisconsin's a pretty big state. So maybe about in the middle of the state. I'm not gonna say the town because I feel like my grandfather wouldn't like me saying that. But anyways, they have a cabin that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and my mom's side of the family always has a big Christmas party there at the beginning of December. And like I said, it's in the woods and it's very picturesque. And then this year, the day before we went, they had a big snowstorm. And that was pretty much the big first snow of the season. And so the day we went, the weather was beautiful. It was sunny and bright, and there was just fresh snow everywhere. And Dan and I went on a little walk in the woods, and it was really, really pretty. So I will put some video at the end of that. And then, yeah, we had a couple other Christmas things. We had some parties with our friends, parties with our families. And I had a really, really awesome Christmas. It's always nice to see my family. I really enjoy them. So, yeah, I hope you all had a really fantastic Christmas as well if you celebrate. What else? Last night was New Year's Eve, and I took it pretty easy this year. One of our traditions is that my mom usually makes a really nice dinner on New Year's Eve. Typically we have crab legs, but they were, I think because of supply chain issues, they were twice as expensive as they usually are this year, and they were really hard to find. So instead we had some really nice steaks as a substitute, which was still amazing. And yeah, we always just kind of do a real treat yourself dinner on New Year's Eve. And then usually I'll go out afterwards, but not this year. I decided to stay in and we watched a movie, and yeah, I just did some knitting and had a really relaxed New Year's Eve, which I'm not complaining. It was lovely. And I woke up early this morning and felt really fresh and ready to go. Yeah, excited for a new year. I also wanted to give a little bit of a health update today. A lot of you have reached out to me with well wishes and to ask how I'm doing. So I want to keep you up to speed with what is happening with me, especially as I'll explain in a bit. It could potentially impact my making in the next couple months. So if you're a returning viewer, you'll probably know the background on this. But if you're new, if you go back 2 episodes, I think I went into a bit of detail, but long story short, I had several pulmonary embolisms the week of Thanksgiving. Those are blood clots in your lungs. It's a very serious thing. And so I am now on blood thinners to treat that, and we have started the process of seeing if I have any sort of underlying condition that potentially contributed to the clotting I experienced. And so a couple weeks ago, maybe it's the week before Christmas, I went in and had an ultrasound done. And so to back up a little bit, when I, originally went into the doctor when this all happened, one of my main symptoms was that my arm was really like swollen and discolored and painful. And so, and then they found the clots in my lungs, and the idea was that I probably had some sort of clotting in my arm. So I don't know if this is like common knowledge, but in case you don't know, you typically, I'm not a doctor. Let me put that caveat out there. But you don't just like form blood clots in your lungs. Usually what happens is you have some other larger clot somewhere else in your body, usually in your legs, because your legs are farthest away from your heart. But you have another larger clot somewhere else in your body, and then a piece of that will break off. And then, just due to the nature of your circulatory system, will then travel back up and land in your lungs. And that's what a pulmonary embolism is. So anyways, the idea was that, my like originating source clot was probably in my arm based on the symptoms I was experiencing. So I went in and had an ultrasound on my arm to see if they could find my clot, or to see if I had clotting in my arm. And I did, and I was expecting that they would find something in there. What was a little surprising though, so I was expecting them to maybe find something in like my bicep area, but actually my clotting is up here, more so in my shoulder, kind of towards my neck. I had pretty significant clotting in my subclavian vein. If you are familiar with anatomy or want to go look up a picture of what this all looks like. So yeah, I had pretty significant clotting in my subclavian vein. And I have been told that clotting in that vein is pretty rare. Again, it's so close to your heart, and there's a lot of like pressure there and things move pretty nicely. So clotting up there is pretty rare. And they have told me that almost always, if someone experiences clotting in that vein, it is due to some sort of anatomical problem. So that vein kind of passes through, so you've got your like collarbone and then your first rib, they kind of like sit next to each other up here in your shoulder, and the subclavian passes through that space between them. So yeah, you've got those 2 bones, you've got some muscles in there, and, in some people, be it, just the way that their shoulder naturally is, or maybe due to repetitive movements or sports or previous injury, that space can get really tight and essentially squish your vein, and it gets squished and the blood can't flow properly and it pools and you get blood clots, which is likely what happened to me. So in a couple weeks, I have an appointment to meet with a vascular surgeon, and they're going to do some more tests to confirm that that is my official diagnosis. The term for that condition is called thoracic outlet syndrome, in case you are wondering. It's very rare, but it does happen. So they will evaluate me for, again, thoracic outlet syndrome is what it is called. And if that is what my official diagnosis is, I will likely need to have surgery to correct it. They'll kind of go in there and remove some tissue, we'll call it, to create space for my vein so that it's no longer getting squished. And if you are, I'm not going to go into detail about what that surgery entails because it's a little gross. But, if you're interested, you can go Google thoracic outlet surgery and you can find out what that means. So anyways, more to come. It's not for sure yet that I'll need surgery. It's likely. And then, the sad part of all of that is that I will probably not be able to knit while I am recovering from that surgery. So I will have to think of some other things to do while I am resting after that. Hopefully it's just a few weeks. I've read that after that surgery, you have to keep your shoulder pretty stable for 2 weeks and then you can start moving a little bit. So I'm hoping it's not too long that I have to not knit. Because knitting is my main way of coping with stress, and that's obviously a stressful situation. And to not be able to knit is a little, I feel a little sad about it. But maybe I can do some other things. Luckily, it's my left arm, which is my non-dominant arm. So I'm actually thinking about maybe getting like a cross stitch stand. And, maybe, if something's kind of holding a cross stitch, maybe I could cross stitch with my right hand and keep my left arm pretty still. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I will have that appointment. I think it's on the 20th of January, so about 3 weeks from now. But until then, I am going to keep knitting for as long as I can until they tell me not to. But yes, there might be a little hiatus from the podcast, or it might temporarily turn into a bit of a cross-stitch podcast if that's something that I can do instead of knitting. But yeah, luckily, if this is what it is, it's very treatable. And, the idea of having surgery is a bit scary, but, we'll just get it done and then it'll be a bit rough for a few weeks, but hopefully this will all be resolved in a couple months. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that that is the case. All right, now that that is out of the way, let's talk about some knitting, which is the real reason we are all here. To start off today, I wanted to let you know what I am wearing. So this is I'm gonna stand up a little so you can see. This is the Whitehorse sweater by Caitlin Hunter, otherwise known as Boyland Knitworks. I knit this earlier, I almost said earlier this year, but early last year, beginning of 2021. This was probably the last thing I finished before I started podcasting. So I never actually showed this on the podcast, but it was completed right before I started filming. And it is a really nice textured yoke. It's got this kind of like feather and fan stitch, and then baubles all over. And then the body of the sweater, I don't know how to show this, the camera's super zoomed in, but the bottom of the sweater is knit in a reverse stockinette. So you do the yoke and then you turn the sweater inside out, and you can just kind of like knit, 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 and then you turn it back right side out and the purl side is showing. I used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in Bamboo Heather, which I think was actually a Christmas present many years ago. My mom got me this yarn. But yeah, it's a really nice kind of yellowy green color, and I did modify this sweater a bit. So if you're familiar with the Whitehorse pattern, it is more of a cropped sweater, and the sleeves they're 3/4 length, I believe, and they're kind of more of like a balloon sleeve. There's like a bit of volume at the bottom of the sleeve. And I just decided to knit some regular sleeves. I just picked up the amount of stitches you were supposed to, or whatever is called for in the pattern, and then decreased down to make kind of a standard sleeve. And then I also did not make it cropped, so I kept knitting for much longer than the pattern called for, because I wanted a regular sized sweater. My only qualm with it, and this is entirely my fault, is that I think I decreased a little too much in the sleeves, and now they're a bit tight. It fits, but I do kind of feel like my arm is in a bit of a sausage casing. It looks fine, but it is a bit snug on the forearms. So I probably should not have decreased quite so much. But again, that was me making a modification, not something that was an issue with the pattern. So again, Whitehorse by Caitlin Hunter. I love it. I think it's such a pretty design, very unique, and yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about it. Before I get into my works in progress, I did want to talk a little bit about my knitting plans for the new year. Yes, it is always kind of a goal of mine to actually finish the projects I start. I feel silly saying that because of course we all want to finish the projects that we start, but I feel like I am especially not good at it. I did a lot better last year. I finished quite a few things, but I also started a lot of things last year that are now just kind of sitting in a pile, and I feel sad about that. And it's not a waste of time because I will go back and finish those someday, but I do sometimes ponder how many hours I've spent on knitting projects that I haven't finished and can't use. And it's a lot of time. And like, if I were to actually, follow through and finish things, I just feel like I would have so many more finished objects. And yeah, ultimately, I do think I'm more of a process knitter, and that's why I have this problem, but I would really like to have, a whole closet full of knitwear. And I have a fair amount, but, like sweaters, for example, I only have maybe 5 sweaters, which I've started like 20 sweaters in my life. So like having only about a quarter of them be finished is not a good success rate. So anyways, I am really hoping to, in terms of like New Year and resolutions, I would really like to be, more diligent and disciplined in finishing my works in progress. especially garments. I really want to focus on sweater knitting this year. I have a fairly sizable yarn stash and there's a lot of sweater quantities in there, and I want to have those sweaters done so I can wear them. So I think that's going to be my big focus this year, is trying to knit up as many sweaters as I can. I'll knit other things as well, but yeah, I want to make garments my main thing this year. And then the other note I wanted to make is, in my last few episodes, I had talked about doing some design work. I am putting that on hold for a little bit, mostly to do with my health stuff. I'm trying to be really optimistic. I, am hopeful that this will all get resolved, but I am still like kind of stressed about it, and I don't know, I want to be able to have knitting that's like purely enjoyable, kind of mindless, where I can just like sit and work on something. And pattern designing takes a lot of thought and mental energy, and I just don't feel like I'm in a good place for that right now. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I'm definitely still interested in designing. It's something I want to maybe pick up again in 6 months or so. But for now, I'm finding a lot of comfort in just, knitting other people's patterns, and that's what I'm going to do. So again, I hope that makes sense. My shawl design that I've shown my last few episodes will definitely be coming back. I love that shawl. I want to write up the pattern and share it with you all. But I just need a little time to be completely selfish with my knitting and to just make whatever I feel like making. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Also, I forgot to mention, I really want to try being a mostly monogamous knitter this year. I say mostly monogamous because, certain projects are not always suitable for the situation. If you've got a big giant sweater that's nearly finished, that is not something that is portable. So, not the best travel knitting, for example. But I would like to pick a project and work on it as much as I can until it's finished, and then maybe have like a little side project for the times when I can't work on my main project. The other exception to that, not really an exception, I'm going to show my current blanket project in a little bit, and I want that to kind of be my like long-term project for the year. And did you just see that? There's a bug in here. It flew right in front of my camera. Anyways, what was I saying? I have my blanket project, and I'll show that to you today. And my plan is to kind of work on that as an in-between project. So it is a stripy blanket. So maybe do like 10 or so stripes in between projects. And that will then kind of get worked on little by little throughout the year, because I can't imagine, even though I want to be a monogamous maker, I can't imagine doing an entire large blanket in one go. I think I will definitely need to take some breaks from that. But yeah, those are my plans for the year. So first up today, I have put quite a bit of work into my sock project that I think I introduced last episode. I am knitting myself a pair of DRK everyday socks. That is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. And I am using a ball of Schoppel. This is the Crazy Zauberball. It's a pretty popular sock yarn. And I am using colorway 2092, which is called Schokoladenseite. I am probably saying that incorrectly. I believe this is a German company, so I'm assuming that is a German word. But here is the yarn balled up, and the Crazy Zauberball is always pretty fun. You've got a ton of different color changes and color shifts happening, and yeah, it's been really entertaining to knit with. This is a 75% superwash, 25% nylon sock yarn. And here is my sock. These socks look really funny when they're not on the blocker. They are an all over ribbed sock, and so they just kind of suck in. And then the toe, I'm not gonna say it, but you maybe, some of you out there may know what I think this looks like. Anyways, if I put it on the blocker, it really stretches it out and it looks really nice. So I will do that. And now we have something that looks a bit more like an actual sock. So last episode I was here where this little pink marker is. This is a toe up sock. It's my first ever toe up sock. So yep, since last time I have done the heel turn, the gusset, and I am now knitting up the foot, or excuse me, knitting up the leg. Yes, this is my first sock, so I'll have to do another one after this, obviously. But yeah, we're about halfway, maybe a little less than halfway up the leg. And again, this is a 2x2 rib sock, so it's probably gonna fit really well. It seems to fit really well so far. It like really just cinches in and hugs your foot nicely. Yeah, what else to say? I'm using a US size 1 needle, and I am knitting the, I forget what size. It's the largest. The pattern has, I think, 11 different sizes, and I am knitting the largest women's size because I have really big feet. So yes, I really am liking this pattern. I'm thinking about also making a pair for my mom. I try to knit my mom a pair of socks for Mother's Day every year, so that might be my next pair of socks. Because yeah, I am really happy, A, with how this looks, and B, I think it's gonna fit really nicely. Even though it looks a little funny when it is not on the blocker or it's not on a foot. But yeah, I think they're pretty stunning when they're all stretched out like this. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about those. Socks, fun. Okay. My next work in progress that you will have seen before if you are a returning viewer is my granny stripe blanket. I had started this last episode and showed you, I had just done a few rows on it, and I did a lot of work over this, or on this over Christmas. Again, right now I'm like really looking for comfort making, and this really fit the bill. I crocheted just hours and hours on this over Christmas, and it was lovely. I am using, again, this is a crochet granny stripe blanket. I am using an F hook, which I'm pretty sure this is like just a super cheap hook from some big box craft store. Not sure which one, probably Michael's. But anyways, here is my blanket. It's all rolled up. But last time, I'll show you, to find it. Again, I had just started this last time, and you can see I put this fun little jingly marker on there. But I was on this kind of yellowy, bluey stripe here. And since then, I have done a lot of crochet. I've added, I think 10 or 11 stripes since then. I am using the instructions by Attic24. She has a blog, and if you Google search granny stripe blanket, I'm pretty sure it's one of the first results you will get. Her pattern is written, I think, for DK weight. I am using fingering weight yarn, so I modified it a little bit. Basically, I just chained until it looked like it was a good size. I wanted this blanket to be queen size, so I chained and then kind of compared it to my bed, and I think I ended up chaining 422 stitches. And then from there you do like a setup row, and then you've got these clusters of 3 double crochets. I'm in America, so it's a double crochet. I believe a double crochet in America is actually a triple crochet in Europe. It's different, I know that for sure. But anyways, I'm doing a double crochet and creating these like clusters of 3. And yes, it's very fun, very therapeutic. I recently held this blanket up to my bed again, and it's way bigger than a queen size. It's probably closer to a king size. I laid it over the foot of my bed, and it had maybe like 1.5 feet of overhang on both sides. So it's a big blanket. Yeah, I had a handful of scraps in my scrap bin that I put in this, but on the whole, I started this because I was seeing people on Instagram opening up their yarn advent calendars, and I was seeing all these pretty mini skeins, and I was getting jealous, and I really wanted some mini skeins and to start a mini skein project. So I went on Etsy and bought a lot of mini skeins. I will show you. They've all arrived at this point. I had some of them last episode, but since then they've all showed up. And here's my big bag of mini skeins. They're gonna all fall out. You know what? Fall out. How fun is that? But yeah, I have a lot of mini skeins, and by my calculations, I should have enough mini skeins to finish out my blanket and make it a queen/king size. This one's falling apart, so let me fix it. So yeah, I'm just gonna, this is not, just trying to fix this skein. So yeah, like I said at the beginning, my plan is to kind of use this as an in-between project throughout the year, and maybe crochet. I think I landed on 10 stripes in between. I'm very analytical, so I need a very concrete and discrete plan for everything. So I think when I finish my main project, I'll take a little break from knitting and do 10 stripes of crochet on my blanket. And yeah, hopefully by the end of the year, it will be, if not completely done, mostly done. Yes, It's super fun. I highly recommend starting one. It's very relaxing. It's been just what I need these days. And yeah, I'm loving it so far. I have one more work in progress to show you today, and it is brand new. I just started it 3 or 4 days ago. Like I mentioned, I really want to focus on sweaters this year. And I really want to also, put an emphasis on basics and the sweaters that I'm actually gonna wear pretty regularly. All of the sweaters I have knit so far, this one included, have something pretty like fun and fancy about them. So I would also like to knit some more simple sweaters because at the end of the day, I am a pretty simple dresser. I like neutrals. I like things without a lot of pizzazz, I suppose is a good word. And yeah, so I started thinking, I wanted to cast on a new sweater, and I was debating what to start, and thinking about like what needs I had in my sweater wardrobe. There's a lot of needs that need to be filled, but my first thing I wanted to tackle was, for a while I've been wanting a sweater that was really like thick and chunky and warm, and something that I could use as a replacement for a coat on certain days. I live in Wisconsin in the United States, and it gets pretty cold in the winter time, so I will definitely still need a coat, but there are a lot of days where it's more mild, 30s, 40s Fahrenheit. And I think if I had like a proper big thick sweater, I could probably wear that instead of a coat on a lot of days and look really fancy in my knitted outerwear. I realize I just went on a spiel about knitting basics, and this project is not basic at all, so ignore that sentiment. It's still something I want to focus on this year, but that's not related to this project at all. Anyways, so I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to kind of fit that bill. And I am a really big fan of the Knitting Traditions podcast, which is hosted by Inga. If you don't watch it, you should. She knits so fast. She has like a new finished sweater every episode. I don't know how she does it. But anyways, a couple of months back, she had knit a really cool sweater called the Alafosslopi Polar by Linka Neumann, and I loved that sweater immediately. I thought it was gorgeous, and so I went to do some research, and Linka Neumann is a Norwegian designer, and at that time, that pattern, it was in a book she had written, and it was only available in Norwegian, which was very sad for me because I really wanted that sweater. And then a couple months after that, I was looking at it again and saw that she had released her book in English, and I was very happy and went and bought it immediately. So the sweater I am knitting is out of this book, which is called Wilderness Knits by Linka Neumann. I think that's her on the cover. And this was the original sweater that I was really attracted to when I bought this book. And then the little subtitle says, Scandi style sweaters for adventuring outdoors. So yes, I am not actually knitting this sweater. I'm knitting a different one out of this book. I do plan on knitting this at some point, but I started with one that I also really liked when, I bought the book and was looking through it, and I fell in love again. So I am knitting I don't know how to say this word. It's got the O with the dash through it, which I looked up and it makes kind of like a O sound. Ooh. I'm gonna say Foyka is how you say that word. If you speak Norwegian and you can help me out with that pronunciation, I would greatly appreciate it. But I'm gonna say Foyka. And this is what it looks like. I love this picture so much. Like me and my two best friends, and we're all wearing our matching sweaters. It makes me happy. But yeah, it's a big, thick colorwork sweater, and I love it. So I started that this week. Let's start with the yarn. I am using the yarn that is called for in the pattern, which is like the king of outdoor sweater yarns, which is the Alafosslopi. If you are not familiar, this is a pretty popular yarn. The Alafosslopi is made by Istex, which is, to my understanding, the main yarn distributor in Iceland. So they have a couple different yarns. The Lopi, I'll have to go look up and remind myself what that means. But there's a couple different types of Lopi yarn. I think Lopi is just in reference to Icelandic wool. I don't know if that's entirely true though. I'm gonna have to go educate myself. But they've got the Alafosslopi, which is a bulky, the Letlopi, which is a DK to worsted, I think, and then the Plotulopi, which is the unspun woven yarn. I have some of all of that yarn in my stash. This is the first time I've ever knit with it. So yeah, the Alafosslopi, again, is their bulky weight. It's intended for outdoor wear sweaters. I've heard people say that they've knit sweaters in Alafosslopi and they are like impossible to wear inside. They're too hot. But yeah, again, this is 100% Icelandic wool. This is my main color. This is color 9972. And it is a cream, kind of a yellow leaning cream. And if you look closely, there's like little tan flecks. All of the Lopi is pretty heathered. And if you like look closely at the yarn, there's a lot of really great dimension in the color. There's a little fleck. And then my other two colors, my contrasting colors that I am using are this, we will call it a light to medium brown. This is color 0085. And then to really pop with those two, I have this red. This is my favorite type of red. I love a cool toned red. And this is color 9962. And I just love how it's got little like blue and yellow flecks in it. I think it's so pretty. So together, this is what my sweater is gonna look like. This yarn is not the softest. It's pretty rustic and kind of scratchy. But I'm not super bothered by that. I love more rustic yarns. I prefer that to, you know, your superwash yarns. And because it is a bulky weight sweater, it's knitting up really quickly. Again, I started this 4 days ago, I think, and I'm already done with the first sleeve. So let me show you. So first sleeve done. The sweater is knit from the bottom up. So it's a circular yoked sweater. So you knit the body and the sleeves, and then you join them at the armpit to continue knitting up. for the yoke. I've done a couple sweaters with this construction before, and I always like to start with the sleeves because I think it's really nice to get them out of the way. I don't mind knitting sleeves. I've never been, you know, I know a lot of knitters completely hate knitting sleeves. I don't mind it. However, I do think the body of the sweater is the most exciting part. So I always like to get the sleeves out of the way if possible. And then, you know, once I get to the body, that to me is the like really thrilling part of the project. So anyways, sleeve number 1. Something new in this project that I have never done before is using 3 colors of colorwork at a time. So every colorwork I've ever done is using 2 colors, and there's definitely a bit of that here. But then as you get up here into these diamond shapes, there are a couple rows where you use all 3 colors in a single row, which I had never done before. I was a little nervous. It seemed complex. Knitting with 2 colors is often tricky enough, but it wasn't so bad. I went and watched a couple of YouTube videos just to kind of get some helpful tips and tricks, and yeah, knitting with 3 colors, not too bad. Thumbs up for me. Oh, I keep holding it up. I think it looks so pretty. Yeah, I feel like in the stockinette, you can really see how much depth there is to this color. I just love it so much. I could stare at it all day. So yes, first sleeve is done, and I have started the second sleeve, and I'm maybe about a little less than halfway through the plain part. Yes, I am knitting this. Confession time, did not swatch for this sweater. I wanted it to be big and oversized, so I just decided to knit the largest size of the sweater. And it will be as big as it will be. And yeah, no swatching. I am usually a big proponent of swatching, but I did not in this situation. And I am hopeful it will not come to bite me in the butt due to the very oversized nature of this sweater, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be singing a different tune in a few weeks. I don't remember where I was going with that. I don't know. Anyways, about halfway done with the second sleeve, and then I will get to start on the body, which is the exciting part. I am planning on modifying the pattern slightly. I noticed, so again, there's a little bit of color work on the sleeve and body before you join. So again, once I join the sleeves and the body, they'll all have this color work chart on them, and then, you know, we'll do more color work moving forward. I was looking at the pattern and kind of like doing some calculations in my head and realized that when you, so it's, I don't think this is giving away too much. It is a 6 stitch color repeat. And then, you know, the chart for the rest of the yoke is also a 6 stitch color repeat. But I was realizing that when you join the sleeves to the body, while if you use the numbers that are in the pattern, you will have a multiple of 6 for the 6 stitch color repeat. It's not going to line up on the sleeves. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, so basically like your next bit of color work, there's like points and it's supposed to you know, there's supposed to be points that point to these little diamonds, and if you follow the pattern as written, it's not going to line up. It's going to like shift over a little bit. It'll line up on the body, but again, it won't line up on the sleeves. And I even went and I looked really closely to the sweater pictures in the book, and that's how it is on all of them. The color work is slightly off center. So like visually, like I didn't even notice until I started knitting this, but I am a perfectionist. And so I was thinking like, there's gotta be a way to make this work so the stitches line up. So I think what I'm going to do is change the amount of stitches I put on hold for the underarms, and I think I can make it work. The one big caveat is I will be putting more stitches on hold for the underarm, and you know, with such a bulky yarn, even putting a couple stitches on hold, you lose, like I'm pretty sure my gauge is about 4 stitches to the inch. So 4 stitches doesn't seem like a lot, but you are, you know, if you put four extra stitches on hold, you lose about an inch from your size, which I don't think, because this is supposed to be oversized, I think it would be fine. The jury is still out. So I might try to tweak the pattern a little bit to make the color work line up a bit better. Other than that, I'm gonna follow this pretty closely to what is written. Yes, I can't believe how quickly it's going. I'm really hoping today's Saturday morning. So I'm hoping to have the second sleeve done by the end of the weekend, and then I can start on the body, and it will be fun. And I'm really excited. So yes. And that is it for me today. I feel like I've been very chatty today. I think this is gonna be a longer episode. We'll see when I start editing what happens. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate that some of you choose to spend a little bit of your day with me. It really fills my heart. So again, thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a happy first of the year and a happy beginning of January, and that your 2022 is a good time. I hope this year is better than the last few years. I really sincerely do. So anyways, thank you so much. I will chat with you all in about 2 weeks. Bye.